Erick Schonfeld here with TechCrunch TV. Today, Yahoo announced a new CEO, Scott Thompson, who was formerly the president of PayPal. And I've got with me Colin Gillis, an analyst at BGC Financial. Colin is on the phone. How are you, Colin?
I'm great, Eric.
Thank you for joining us. So the stock was down 2% at the announcement, and then it kept on going down a little bit after the conference call where Scott introduced himself. Why do you think that was?
I think it's less a vote on Scott's ability and more a vote on the fact that this is an indication that Yahoo's not likely to go private anytime soon. The Yahoo's chairman basically made that comment. But a lot of people who were watching this closely knew that for Yahoo to go private, you would need a significant chunk of capital. We're talking north of $20 billion, right? So it was really unlikely that the company could ever get that size of a deal done and go fully private.
Right, and Roy Bostock, the chairman, he made that very clear that the company is a publicly traded company and they're going to be public going forward. And the decision to go with Scott very much seemed to be a signal that they're betting on the future of this media business. He also kind of indicated that the Asian assets, which is a big part of the value of Yahoo, is going to continue to be sold off. So it's really sort of a bet on the future of Yahoo's media business, which many people think is zero.
Well, I mean, or close to zero, depending on how you want to value the various pieces of the company. But here's how I view the announcement, right? First and foremost, if the company is going to pursue a cash-rich split of its Asian assets, right, where they use a structure where they put the assets in, and then Alibaba and Yahoo Japan put cash in, as well as other additional assets, so they don't trigger a tax event. In order to do that, they need to pick what assets go into that, and they need a CEO to be involved in that process. Right? So the company was under a fair amount of pressure to have a CEO lined up before its December quarter earnings announcement, which is later on in January.
So they need the CEO in order to spin off the Asian assets.
Well, just to appease investors, right? Look, we've got, we're not just drifting aimlessly, right? So you can't, they couldn't have that earnings call without having, some direction, right? So you get the CEO in place, and then if they spin off these assets if they're going to use this tax-efficient vehicle called a cash-rich structure,
right,
there needs to be assets put in, right? And there's talk whether it could be, Hulu or some other type of content plays that could be dropped into that. And whoever your CEO is should have input into that, because that's going to be a big factor in terms of what Yahoo becomes in the future.
Right. Well, it wouldn't be Hulu. They don't own Hulu.
Well, what I'm saying is that the way they would spin these assets out, they would actually be swapping them for other properties.
Oh, for other properties, I see. So there could be some interesting deals going on there.
Such as, Hulu, and then a lot of other public companies, that are in the content space.
I got you. And so, but going forward, here you have a guy who was the president of PayPal. He was a CTO of PayPal before that. He's a technologist at heart. And on the call, he very much was talking about the need for innovation and even product disruption. Do you think he can deliver that, given the fact that, if you look at PayPal recently, it's been very successful financially, but I wouldn't necessarily call it, a center of product innovation over the past few years.
Do you think Tim Armstrong ever wakes up and says, geez, why did I ever leave Google?
Right? I know. I'll go ask him. He's around the corner.
Yeah, I think the issue is going to be, is Scott going to have the same type of, hurdles facing him, right? And the answer is, is yes, right? Because what will he be able to do different, materially different from Carol Bartz? And again, Yahoo is a company that needs to define its business model, because the way display advertising is being bought and sold, it's changing rapidly. And when you have this, this onrushing force that comes from Google and what they've done with exchanges and all the demand side and the supply side platforms and the entire ecosystem that's been built up, the old method of selling, what they call premium advertising with sales forces and faxes going back and forth and all the inefficiencies that entails, that is looking increasingly archaic. So he needs to find a business model that will sustain Yahoo in the future.
Right, and so if you look at Yahoo's percentage of display advertising, it's huge, but declining. And what you're saying is that there are forces in play that point in the direction that that's going to continue to decline. Do you think that Yahoo can do?
They've had declining revenue growth for 8 quarters in a row. And one of the things he talked about was that he wants to change that, right? And he also wants to increase shareholder value, right, which is typically done by increasing the stock price. And those are great things. But the key issue that was left out was how he's going to do it, right?
How much time does he have to start showing results? He said several times on the call, give me some time. And there's always a honeymoon period that investors usually give new CEOs to figure out what they're going to do. How much time does he have?
Yeah, I mean, that's the classic 100 days, right? Mm-hmm. So, you've got 100 days to get out there and, articulate your strategy at the end of that. That's 1 quarter, basically. And then, come the summertime, come the fall, there needs to be some tangible results that are shown. I mean, this is the problem, because any real turnaround effort for Yahoo is probably going to be a multi-year process. So it'll be interesting to see his employment contract when it comes out. If it's a 3-year deal, or if it's maybe he was smart enough to try to cut a longer deal, like a 5-year deal, and that'll be filed in the 8K. But I know one thing for sure, right? He's likely to be very well compensated, because he was highly compensated at eBay. So for him to leave, you're probably looking at something north of $10 million per year. So yet another expensive CEO for Yahoo. Hopefully he delivers some value on that.
And as an investor, what are the first signs that you would look for that would be signs to actually buy Yahoo? I mean,
revenue growth. Right? I mean, it's just right there, right? Top line. Yahoo's done a great job in controlling their expenses, right? But the revenue has been in decline. So then you split revenue into 2 buckets, right? You've got their display piece and their search piece. Well, search is now basically a function of how well can Microsoft, match up ads and deliver some relevancy and drive increased RPS. And display is the piece that that Yahoo has to hold on their own. And if they can continue to drive results in that category, that would certainly be a positive.
So if we can turn things around, you might be a buyer of Yahoo?
Well, we're hold rated with a $17 target, right? And so the thing I would stress to investors is that there are no fast fixes, right? And so even if a news comes out that they're going to be able to have a structure to spin off these assets and recash up their balance sheet, it will still probably take many months to get full regulatory approval, and before that cash lands on the balance sheet and they can do anything with it. Mm-hmm. Right? You have to get U.S. approval. You probably have to get a European approval. You probably need approval in China. Probably need regulatory approval in Japan. Same thing with Scott, right? He can come out and he can articulate a good vision, but it will take many months to implement before change is seen. So we would not be buyers right here on Yahoo at this time.
Many months, if not years. Thank you for joining us, Colin.
Thank you, Erick.